Welcome, it's Wednesday the 16th already. A bit of an update on a few situations today. Then later in the video, I'm going to show you how to download these books, my books, onto a mobile phone, free, onto a mobile phone. Someone's just sorted that out for us, so that's something to play with later on if you want to. Now, I'm just going to start off with some orientation charts to be going on with. Now, new confirmed cases per million people. So Canada, there's a continuing gradual increase. The UK have had this appalling bounce. And remember, these are per capita figures. The United States is still going higher. Now, I'm not going to give you a load of numbers today. I gave you a load of numbers yesterday, but it was 213,000 cases per day on average increase in the United States of the 7-day rolling average, which is a useful figure to take. So increase is still going on in all of those countries and cases. Now this one's the Americas, the United States, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Bolivia. So it looks like the South American countries are doing quite a lot better. But then, of course, when we look at the testing, we get the real picture. And Brazil and Bolivia basically aren't testing. So Chile is testing a reasonable amount, so it's reasonable that Chile has a low level. But what the cases are doing in Brazil, we believe they're still quite high. Bolivia, we don't know. So very limited information there, really, on what's going on to large numbers of people in Brazil because of the simple lack of testing. And this is just a Scandinavia one as another European example to show the problems. Norway and Finland keeping quite low. Country immediately next to or in between Norway and Finland, of course, is Sweden. Rates are increasing quite dramatically, and we can see the UK is kind of in the middle there. So that's just a bit of a snapshot in terms of numbers. Now I'm going to talk about the UK briefly first of all, then some European countries. Now, Christmas rules in the UK. So this idea that 3 households can mix. Now, what's happened here is I think the government have realised it's a mistake, but they don't want to row back from it for political reasons. It's a disaster. There's going to be a great spike of cases in January, February as a result of this Christmas 3 household bubble situation. So they've rolled it back a bit in Wales. There's a lockdown, I think, from Wales on severe restrictions from just after Christmas, the 28th of December in Wales. The Scottish First Minister's saying make it 1 night, not 5 nights. So, but these are guidelines. Legally, people are still going to be allowed to do it. So there is inevitably going to be a spike in January, February. Now, if you're watching this video, I don't need to tell you, but our role as people that understand this is trying to get this message out to the wider public that we haven't got much longer to go in this pandemic because the vaccines are coming. Next summer, things should be pretty good. We really can't afford a Christmas this year. I think that's kind of the message on that one. Going ahead with the European situation, Germany, for example, had 935 deaths in a 24-hour period. It's closed schools, it's closed non-essential businesses until the 10th of January. So both schools and non-essential businesses closed till the 10th of January. And one household can have 4 close family members for Christmas, and that is it. So just using those countries to illustrate what's going on in Europe, really. France likewise. There was a great increase in cases in France. Then they came down a bit similar to the UK, higher numbers than the UK. Curfew still in operation. Bars, restaurants closed until the 20th of January. So quite long time, really. And this is the case basically everywhere. We knew this winter would be difficult. And we know that the deaths are going to increase as the result of the increase in cases in the States and the UK and other places. Unfortunately, inevitable, and Christmas is going to make it a lot worse. Public Health England has used the ratio 1 to 5. They're saying for every 1 day of relaxation at Christmas, it's going to take 5 days of much harder restrictions in January, February to compensate for that. So really the Christmas time is going to be a big problem, and we really need a lot of personal responsibility. And the government has basically put the onus on the individuals, and we know how individuals often behave, unfortunately. Now, infection fatality rates, interesting topic from Spain. Case fatality rate and infection fatality rate. Now, there's new data here from Spain. Now, there's been a big antibody study in Spain. The latest one is over 51,000 people from all parts of Spain, so it's a representative sample. And 10% of people, they reckon, have had the disease. Now, it's a bit complicated because you know that antibodies can only last for about 3 months typically. So people that had the disease in the first wave back in February, March, April will not be showing antibodies now. But what they've done is they've put the two lots of data together. So we're going to look at that in a minute, not just now. So this is from the second half of November, and they've combined this with data from earlier in the year. And that's this lady from, I think it's a lady from Carlos III Health Institute, respected institute in Spain anyway. So 1 in 10 people living in Spain would have been infected, half during the first wave and the other half during this second epidemic wave, which makes sense because back in April, June, I remember there was 5.2% of people infected back then, so it just kind of makes sense. Madrid, higher numbers, as we've seen in London, New York, for example. Previous results of the study published in July after testing 70,000 people. So that was that one there was 70,000 people. This one is 51,000 people. So they're coming to this figure of 1 in 10 people in Spain. I keep clicking that one. Sorry, 1 in 10 people in Spain have had the infection. Overall, is their estimate 10%. I must say, I would have thought it would be a little bit higher. But they've combined the data and that's what they've come up with. Now, this is where it gets interesting and more useful perhaps to know. 388 deaths last 24 hours in Spain. So the total number of deaths in Spain registered now is 48,401. People have died in Spain. Now, in terms of people testing positive, the number of confirmed cases, there was an extra 10,000 in 24 hours. This is the total number here, 1.7 million have tested positive in Spain altogether. But the population of Spain is about 47 million. So that means the real number of people that have been infected is not 1.7 million, it's 4.7 million. That's the actual number of cases. So that's the diagnosed cases, that's the actual number of cases. Now, if we can combine the number of deaths here in context of the known cases, that gives us a case fatality rate of 2.7% from known cases. But if the number of infections is actually 4.7 million, and we know the death figure, and we believe from this data it's 4.7 million people that had the infection, that means the infection fatality rate, or the infection fatality ratio, is basically in Spain 1%. So of the people in Spain that have been infected, not those that have been diagnosed, 1% have died. And it's affected 10% of the population in Spain. Now, does this mean if the other 90% went on to get infected, we would get 500,000 deaths in Spain? That number times 10. I don't think it does, because a lot of the most vulnerable people have died already. So the death figure would be less than that, I think. But still, that's a fairly high figure. 1%, the infection fatality rate. Higher than the figures we're getting for the UK, as far as we know. But if 10% of the population of Spain have been infected, then that is not too far off the mark. Infection fatality rate of 1%. Given that a lot of the vulnerable people have died already, which would artificially increase that figure. Now, moving on to the Moderna vaccine. Now, the scientists for the FDA basically are happy with this. That they seem to be happy with the Moderna vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine is the one that's approved already, of course. And the Moderna scientists have published this article that I kept clicking to in error before, a 54-page document, and it summarises their findings. Now, this has not been approved by the final FDA regulatory body. That will almost certainly be on Friday. So this vaccine will be approved in 2 days' time. But here's the basis of the FDA, Food and Drug Administration scientists, and this is their publication, that give the rationale for that decision. Now, I've put the link there. I'm not going to go through it, of course. It's a detailed document. But the reason I'm showing this is it's just interesting to note how thorough an assessment this is. It's only 55 pages, but it's packed full of really quite impressive information. This is always useful. It's got all the what do you call them, the acronyms and things there. It's annoying when you can't work out what they're talking about. And so it gives you the executive summary and a fair bit about the Moderna vaccine there, and it goes on for pages. I'm not going to go through it all. It's all in that link. But I just put that up to show that they have done a pretty thorough job in their assessment of the Moderna vaccine. So this is the Moderna National Institutes of Health vaccine. This has had a lot of money from Operation Warp Speed, of course. Still quite an expensive vaccine. The last figure I've got is that this vaccine is going to cost £25 per dose, as far as I know. So it's the most expensive vaccine around, and I guess that's about $35 US. So it's not a cheap vaccine, that's per dose. But anyway, Food and Drug Administration scientists, 54-page document. Basically, the conclusion of that document was it's highly effective, 94.1% effective. And also that it prevents infections and symptoms. Now, this is an important conclusion. What they're saying is not only did this vaccine stop people becoming infected, if they do become infected, they get a much milder disease and they don't have symptoms. And we believe that it prevents essentially all cases of serious disease, as indeed do the other vaccines, the Pfizer and the Oxford vaccine. So it really is remarkably good news, but it's just not going to be kicking in big time till February, March. This is the problem. No serious safety concerns. It will be authorised, I am sure. If it doesn't, I'll be on to apologise. I'm sure it'll be authorised on Friday. I am pretty sure about that. General Perner. Now, most of this is going to be General Perner's the logistics expert, of course, in charge of logistics. Most of it's going to be produced in Cambridge, Massachusetts. That's the vast majority of it is going to be produced there. Preparing to ship almost 6 million doses. Apparently there's nearly 6 million doses manufactured in the fridge, ready to go. And of course, one of the big advantages of this is its normal freezer temperatures, minus 20 degrees centigrade, not really cold like the Pfizer one, which is going to make the logistics easier. General Perner said it's going to go to 3,285 locations in the first week. This is impressive logistics. Now, the US is going to get 20 million doses this year. So this is in addition to the Pfizer. There's going to be 20 million doses of the Moderna vaccine rolled out this year as well. So this is a really good start. In terms of whole percentages of the population, it's not going to make much difference over winter, but it's a good start. The General said it will be very similar cadence that was executed last week with the Pfizer vaccine. Basically, he's repeating the procedure. So yeah, he's expecting it clearly to be authorised on Friday, and they're going to be rolling out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So good news on the Moderna vaccine. This is going to be the second vaccine approved. Canada has got 168,000 going there now, or pretty well now. In fact, I think they might have arrived, I'm not sure. 56 million doses by the end of March being brought by Canada. The UK has come late to the party and managed to snaffle in 7 million doses. Not going to get here till March though. So this is not going to help us immediately in the UK. European Union has got 80 million booked and another 80 million as an option. Japan 50 million, South Korea 20 million, Switzerland 7.5 million. Notice all of these are higher income countries. It's an expensive vaccine, and it's being sold at a profit. The Pfizer and the Moderna are both being sold at a profit, unlike the Oxford AstraZeneca one. Not saying that's wrong, just reporting that is happening. So it is concerning that there's no mention of Zimbabwe or Chad or any other poorer income country you'd want to mention. Still hopeful for the Oxford one for that, of course. Now, vaccine progress. How are we doing? Well, the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Authorities have passed one vaccine so far, the Pfizer, and we've got 137 doses out in the first week. Now, in terms of 66 million people in the UK, of course, this is nothing. But it's a good start, and they're working out the systems, and it is going to scale up. So I'm not knocking that at all. It's a good, reasonable start. FDA, the Pfizer vaccine already rolling out. I think about 1 million doses have gone out of the Pfizer vaccine already. The Moderna one will be confirmed on Tuesday. So we're giving the FDA a score of 2. Now, the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Authority in the UK, no massive urgency for them to approve the Moderna vaccine because we haven't got any coming till March. Pity. Great pity. Healthcare Canada has approved one, and Healthcare Canada will be approving the Moderna very soon as well. So that's soon going to be 2 as well. European Medicines Agency so far has succeeded in immunising no one at all in the 27 European countries. So far they have authorised no vaccines, although they have brought it forward by a few days, 6 days, their authorisation procedures. But still unimpressive performance by the European Medicines Agency. Now, we looked at a few days ago at the peer-reviewed article from the Lancet for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Well, we have a second peer-reviewed vaccine now, the Pfizer one, which of course is already authorised, but it's now been peer-reviewed. So let's take a quick look at that just briefly. So that's the title of the paper. It's in New England Journal of Medicine, so reputable, standard way to publish. It's the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, 95% effective, 2 doses, 3 weeks apart, intramuscular injection, but it's got to be kept really cold, unfortunately, minus 70 degrees centigrade. Now, the trial is ongoing, it's multinational. So remember the authorising agencies, whatever that authorising agency is, so whether it's the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Authority, the Food and Drug Administration, Healthcare Canada, or the European Medicines Agency, whichever one of those it is, they're getting much more up-to-date information than this. They're getting, as far as I know, daily updates. I can't imagine it's less than a couple of times a week. I suspect it's daily. Anyway, so it's ongoing, but obviously there's a cut-off to this paper. So placebo-controlled, observer blinded, in other words, the nurses and doctors giving the vaccine and assessing the results of it don't know who got what. It's randomised and they're trialling the efficacy. All proper research technique. This randomisation to the vaccine group or the control group is so important. It's got to be random. You have like a computer that just randomly generates numbers. Because if people did it, they'd introduce subjectivity and get it wrong. So the objectivity is ensured by the randomisation. 16 years or older, 1-to-1 means that there's the same number of people in the control group as in the placebo group, which is good. 2 doses 21 days apart, so people either got the placebo or they got the vaccine. That's the active vaccine. The dose is 30 micrograms. It's lipid nanoparticles. In other words, the RNA is in this lipid nanovacuole thing. Now, the use nano, of course, just means it's very small, but you might have watched that live link I did with Tanzania, and it was really appalling how perfectly intelligent people had concerns about ludicrous conspiracy theories. I'm not even going to go into them; they're such rubbish. We did address them on the video in detail, but surprising amount of disinformation there. And one of the doctors on the conference call said that part of the problem is it's got nano in it. So we talk about nanobots and nanotechnology. Nano just means small. These particles are just small. That's all it means. And they've got this fatty layer around about them, so that when they are injected, because all cells, whatever the cell is, imagine that's a muscle cell in your arm. Doesn't quite look like that, but never mind. All cells with a nucleus in the middle. All cells have got a fatty membrane like that round about them. Phospholipid bilayer. And unless the fat comes into, so if the fat in the nanoparticle there comes into contact with that, that can allow the RNA to get in. Otherwise it won't, because it's so that'll like open up there. It'll melt together like two bubbles, and that'll let the RNA in. But otherwise it won't get in. That's all that's for. That's the fatty coat. And actually the reason that the Moderna vaccine is only kept at -20 and the Pfizer is kept at -70 is they have a different type of fatty material around the outside. And this Pfizer one it's got a different sort of fatty material, and it needs to be stored at a lower temperature. So anyway, I digress. Remember what we're doing. We're looking at the peer-reviewed paper on the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. So modified RNA vaccine, of course, as we know. Now, what the vaccine does, it encodes a membrane-anchored SARS coronavirus to full-length spike protein. Now, what that means is suppose that's the cell there, whether it's the muscle cell in the arm or whether it's the antigen presenting cell in the lymph node. What it means is that there's the nanoparticle there, and that nanoparticle is going to let its RNA get into there. So the RNA gets into the cell. There's the nucleus of the cell there with the DNA. The RNA from the vaccine does not go into the nucleus. It does not affect the DNA. But the RNA goes into protein-producing units in the cell called I think they're called ribosomes, the ribosomes, and that produces the protein. But the protein it produces is membrane anchored. Membrane anchored. So what happens is basically this RNA recipe makes the spike proteins, if I draw them bigger than scale, so they're the spike proteins from the coronavirus. There, that spike protein. And then these spike proteins they're anchored in the outside membrane like that. So the human body cells, the muscle cells or the antigen presenting cells, actually start sprouting. Just the muscle cells or the antigen presenting cells where the vaccine's got to. They actually start sprouting these SARS coronavirus 2 spike proteins. But of course they don't cause the infection because they're not connected to a coronavirus. I mean the whole coronavirus would be you would need the whole virus, wouldn't you, with its spike proteins on it like that. So it's duplicating a part of that. And then what happens is the antibodies here, these Y-shaped antibodies will learn to recognise the shape of that. They'll recognise the shape of that. Then you'll end up with antibodies that have recognised the shape of this spike protein, which has been produced by the RNA that's been injected in the vaccine. And then, of course, when the same antibodies, you'll produce billions of these. You'll also sensitise the T cells. And then when they recognise, so for example, when these antibodies recognise the actual virus, they'll just bind onto it like that. And that will inactivate, not drawn to scale, the Y-shaped antibody. That will inactivate the virus. And also the T cells will kill cells that are infected with the virus. So that's what that means. I didn't mean to tell you all that, but never mind. So it encloses a membrane anchored on the membrane of the what essentially becomes this, which is this becomes the antigen presenting cell, whether it's a part-time antigen presenting cell like a muscle cell, or whether it's a full-time professional antigen presenting cell in the lymphatics, perhaps a cell called a dendritic cell. Anyway, enough of that. People in the trial, carrying on the report of the peer-reviewed paper, 43,448 received injections. Now, the ones that this is the group that received the vaccine. So there's 21,000 people received the vaccine, and this is their results here. That I made a mess all over the place. So the people that received the vaccine, 8 cases of COVID-19 at least 7 days after the injection, 1 severe. The people that received the placebo, well, they got 162 cases, not 8 cases, and 9 of those were severe, not 1. So that's the difference. The vaccine group, 8 infections. The placebo group, 162 infections. And we now know from the review, from this data that we looked at here from the FDA, we now know that not only does the vaccine prevent infections, it also prevents symptoms. And this is all now confirmed by peer review and confirmed by the FDA scientists. So basically this has been confirmed by the best people in the world to do this. These people know what they're talking about. So October the 9th was the cut-off date for the peer-reviewed paper. So in other words, the FDA and the HMRA have got way more data than we have. This is in the public domain data it cut off. Because of course for a peer-reviewed publication you have to cut off the data sometime. But even then, even at that time, there was 37,706 items of people with safety data. That is people that had the injection the second injection at least 2 months ago. All the regulatory authorities will have way more cases than that now. So they're deciding on many more cases. Male, female, so 49% female, 83% were white, 9% were black or African American, very important. There was a mix. 28% were Hispanic or Latino. In other words, this is representing the whole population it's going to be used on. 35% were, dear me, 35% were BMI of at least 30. 21% had one coexisting condition. Median age was 52, and 42% were older than 55. And so this is in other words, this is a really good mix of the population. Going on to the safety profile, again from the peer-reviewed paper, short-term mild to moderate pain in the injection site, fatigue and headache seems to be the main ones. So a bit of pain at the injection site, fatigue and headache seem to be the main side effects. Don't have too much data on this. If you had the vaccine, would you feel like bouncing off to work the next day? Maybe not, maybe not. But that's a small price to pay for being immune, or 94.1% immune on a population basis. Safety over a median of 2 months was similar to that of other viral vaccines. So you wait 2 months and it's looking the same as we would expect for another viral vaccine. Systemic events were most common after the second dose. They tended to only last for a day or two. So quite a lot of people got fatigue and headache. Over half got fatigue and headache actually. So if I was having this vaccine, I would probably try and schedule the day off work if I could actually the day after. You don't want to be running around with fatigue and headache really. But the placebo group got fatigue and headache as well. So the experimental group 55% got fatigue and headache. The placebo group 23% got fatigue and headache. Now, why on earth is a placebo causing fatigue and headache? Well, the answer is that ideally the people in the placebo group shouldn't know whether they've got the real vaccine or not. They think there might be placebo and headache as a side effect, so they get it anyway. This is called the nocebo effect. Because placebo effects can be beneficial or the nocebo effect can be harmful. So fever, some people got fever over 38 degrees centigrade after the second dose. And the fever was more common in younger people. 16% of younger people got fever, 11% of older people got fever. But again, it was short-lived. So I'm not too worried about it. It was short-lived effect. Incidence of serious adverse events was low and was similar in the vaccine and placebo group. No stopping results were met, so there was no reason to stop the study. So there we go. Actually, all together, pretty good news. So that is encouraging. Now, as I've mentioned before, you can. We're talking about my books now. So these are my books. So the aim is to get them out to every person who wants to study them, regardless of ability to pay. And they are being downloaded quite a bit in poorer countries now. Now, Dave has kindly put it onto phones for me. Now, I haven't mentioned Dave's name because I don't know if he wants it mentioned. He'll let me know. And I'm just wondering if I can actually do this. Because if I can do it, you can do it. Because I'm technologically a joke. Let's just get the right one. There we go. Right. So this is the mobile phone version now. So you go on to I go onto my Adobe thing there. Now this is what I've been looking at before, the lymphatic system. So for example there. So here's the chapter on the lymphatic system. So you can download that and read that on your mobile phone. I mean, you could do it on your computer as well. I'm not focusing very well there. That's better. Yeah, and you can scroll through it as you normally do. So I kind of like the idea because a lot of people in poorer countries, they can afford mobile phones, but they often can't afford computers. So it's good to know that they can be using that. Or if you want to go onto Campbell's pathophysiology notes, that's the one on diseases. Now, can I do this? Yeah, there we go. Content. So we can go to contents, then click on contents, and you can go down to the different chapters. They're all listed there. Dave's done all this for me. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate this. So suppose you wanted to learn about infectious diseases, and you go on to infectious diseases, and here's the chapter on infectious diseases. There we go. It's been estimated by the World Health Organization that infectious diseases cause 25% of human deaths worldwide and up to 63% of deaths in children under the age of 4. Dear me, that's appalling, isn't it? Most of these premature deaths are caused by 6 major killers. In order, the number of deaths causing these infections are pneumonia, HIV/AIDS, diarrheal diseases, tuberculosis, malaria and measles. Anyway, there you go. You can read that for yourself. So basically that's just available now as a free download. And all you do, when I say all, it took me about, no, it didn't take me long, 10 minutes. I did in about 10 minutes. You go onto the what you do is you open YouTube in your mobile phone, then you click on the link below the video. That takes you to the download site. You download it, and it's then on your phone. And then all you need is a PDF reader, or of course you can put it on your laptop as well. You can download it for your laptop. So like, can I show you this? Yeah. I'll show you. No, let me show you on this one. There we go. I keep putting the wrong one today. Sorry. There we go. So there it is. It's on your computer as well. So you can download that and you can cut and paste it and do whatever you want with it. And as I say, the reason for doing this is so that anyone in the world can get those 2 books free. There's a donation button there. If you can't afford to donate, please don't donate. If you can, then it's accepted because it helps us with the program. Now, Jean and Barry, we're going to look at their experience of the pandemic. Now they live in Blackpool, which is just not far south of me. So this is Blackpool Tower, which is quite famous in England. And as we see, in the middle of the day, Blackpool is essentially deserted. Even off season, you wouldn't expect it to be like that. Again, the beach is very, very quiet, even for the time of year. Quiet footpaths. So it looks like Jean and Barry's experience of the pandemic is one of quiet. And then they photograph various posters around the place We all have a part to play. Quite right. Our health depends on everyone else. Good. Yep, hands, face, space. Good. And here's a plaque by the sea. Oh yeah, that's right. Now this is from Psalm 93. I have checked the reference. It is correct. That is an accurate representation of the ancient Hebrew, and that's an opinion there from M. Who's that from? MB. Okay, we presumably put up the plaque. But this bit's right. I've checked that bit. So there you go. So Jean and Barry, thank you for your experience of the pandemic, and thank you for watching this video, of course, as always.